Week 2 is already here. Slow it down, NFL. Slow it down. I'm going to blink, and it's going to be week 17, and I'm going to cry. But week 2 is here. That means pick'ems. Let's jump into it. What is up, football fans? Week 2 starts tomorrow, which means I'm going to give you my picks for each game. We're going to kind of recap what happened last week because holy guacamole, Batman, where there's some things last week that we need to address. But before we jump into that, there are a few things that I need to shout out, kind of bring up, kind of talk about. First things first, I do have to shout out some new members. And on the membership side, Jay Nedick, Matthew Hernandez, Sean Poziak, I apologize, Jr., and Mario Gonzalez. Thank you guys so much for hitting that membership button. If you noticed in the live stream on Sunday, certain people had certain emojis and stuff that others don't. Those are members. You're also going to get cool perks and all that stuff throughout the season. So again, if you want to become a member, it's the join button next to the subscribe button. If you want to become a Patreon, you guys have special videos and content as well. Link in the description for the Patreon. The other thing I have to talk about is the leaders of the Pick'em League. And you can see here, again, the Pick'em League has been the top link in the description. It still is. Now, you're a week behind. So if you can still sign up. But if you sign up, you have to try to catch up to these people. And that's going to be hard because you're a week behind. But the top 5 are Mad Dog, Scott Primus, ESPN fan, Chris Sims, Steve O.St., Stephen Foster, Grant Sire, and Zachary Body. Scott, 15-1. Like, you knew some of these picks. Like, holy moly. You see here, I kind of sucked last week. I went 7-9. But this week, I'm going to do better. This week, I am going to do better. And one last final thing before we jump into the picks, and that is to shout out today's sponsor, and that is Pam, Mojo Fantasy. If you don't know about Mojo Fantasy, first and foremost, just take out your phone and put the camera up to that little QR code. It'll take you right to the app. But essentially the way Mojo Fantasy works is it's not just your normal fantasy. It's kind of fantasy football meets stock market, right? There's prop bets. Every week there's prop bets. So you can make a prop bet, say for this Sunday's game, which is going to be the Vikings versus the Eagles. You have a prop bet that Smith has, 7 receptions, over, under, and you pick the over. All of a sudden, as the game's going on, you notice, hey, he's not going to hit those 7 receptions, or for whatever reason, you can sell so you don't lose all your money. Or if you notice, oh, he's going to break that, you can let it ride and make more money. That's how it works. It's a lot of fun. There's a ton of prop bets from quarterbacks to wide receivers to tight ends to running backs. Check it out. And again, if you use the promo code DDW, you get 100% matched up to $100, meaning you deposit $100, you get $100, you play with $200. So go, you can hit the QR code here, or click on the link in the description and check out Mojo. And Mojo, thank you so much for sponsoring this video, and bet responsibly. So we're going to jump into this Mamma Jam, and we are going to the games, starting with tomorrow's game, which is the Philadelphia Eagles hosting the Minnesota Vikings. And the Minnesota Vikings lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it was a close game, but the Vikings offense non-existent. The Eagles did their thing against the Patriots. The Patriots started coming back a little bit. The Eagles, held them off to finally win. But it was a little closer than it probably should be. I was watching some film on the Eagles, and, Jalen Hurts missed a few things. He's looking a little rusty. The Eagles are giving 7 points at home. I'm taking the Eagles. I think the Eagles at home, prime time Kirk Cousins, all that stuff, straight up, I'm taking the Eagles. With the spread, I would take the Vikings. The Vikings are getting 7, I think, with Justin Jefferson. I think with Matheson. I think still the Vikings are a good team, and I think they could give the Eagles a little bit of a trouble. So giving 7 is a lot. So with the spread, I'll take the Vikings, but straight up, I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles. So we have the 1 o'clock game, which is the mother-loving Packers, as Tom Grossi likes to say, heading to Atlanta to take on them Falcons. 1-0 versus 1-0. Falcons put a good beating down on the Panthers. Brain not working. And the Packers. Jordan Love against the Chicago Bears. Good game there. I'm going the Packers here. I think the Packers are just a little bit better. I think the Packers have more of a veteran head coach. I think Jordan Love is actually pretty decent, and I like what the Packers are doing. They're giving 1.5. I'm taking them both in the game straight up and also versus the spread. I think the Falcons are good, but I think they faced an inferior team, a young team, an up-and-coming team in the Panthers, and I think that's why they got the win they did, and I think the Packers are going to pull this one off. Next, we have the Raiders. I almost called them Oakland. Heading to Buffalo. Raiders beating the Broncos. I think it was a 17-16 win, and the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills. I'm going to be nice, Buffalo. Even though you don't deserve it. Even though a good portion of your fan base, nasty things about Tua. Nasty things to me and the Dolphins. Now, I'm not saying all, but a good portion of your fan base on Twitter just spewing. Josh Allen needs to realize that Whithead is not one of his receivers. What was he doing? Josh Allen played like garbage. There is no excuse for the reason you guys could not have beaten the Jets. Now, I will say this, and I'll give you a little nod. 55 on the Jets, 100% tripped your guy on that kick return. Again, the penalty happened at the 27-yard line, a 15-yard penalty. He pushes him back. He could still do things on defense. I don't think, Zach Wilson, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. But, wow, you didn't deserve to win. Regardless of Aaron Rodgers, and we'll get to that, you didn't deserve to win. Because 3 interceptions to the same guy on plays that he just said, screw it. Ay, caramba. Now, in this game, I'm taking Buffalo. Buffalo should be the better team out of the Raiders and Buffalo. Buffalo is giving 9. Buffalo should win. But against the spread, I might go Raiders. Because I don't know what's going on with Josh Allen. But I don't know. 9 points is a lot. So straight up, I'm going Buffalo. Spread, I'm going Raiders. Because I don't know what Buffalo is. But Buffalo, you need to get yourself situated. Josh Allen needs to sit down before Stephon Diggs wants out. Again. And then come out and say, no, that's not true. But internally, he's like, I'm sick of this. Next, we have the Ravens heading to Cincinnati to take on them Bengals. Let's talk about the Ravens first. Ravens won, beat the Texans like they should have, but they got decimated with injuries. I thought the Dolphins were bad luck when it came to the injury bug. The Ravens, J.K. Dobbins, Staley, you guys just decimated with injuries. Craziness. You still ended up winning. Again, it was the Texans there. Then we look at the Cincinnati Bengals. I get it. I get Cleveland is your kryptonite. But God, that was bad. And I get it. It takes a week for some reason, even though it's not a new scheme. It's, same offensive coordinator, same offense, same offensive players. But I get it. It takes you guys a week to get going. But jeez, that was bad. That was bad. You gotta admit, that was bad. This is a close one. The Bengals are giving 3.5. because they're home. I'm picking the Bengals, both spread and straight up. I think they have a bounce back game here. I think they brush off whatever rust they have, and I think they show, hey, look, Cleveland, it was what it was. We're home. We're gonna bounce back here. I'm taking Cincinnati both against the spread and straight up. Now tell me, do you really want to go or live forever? Oh. Then we have Seattle heading to Detroit. Let's talk about Detroit in 1 second. We'll talk about Seattle. Seattle losing to the Rams. Surprising. You would think the Rams are kind of falling apart and, they're restructuring and redoing things. And Aaron Donald came out in his pads and everything. And then he decided, nope. And then he was like, I'm not actually going to be playing and all that stuff. And you lost. Then you got the Detroit Lions puffing their chest. We beat the Chiefs in their home on Thursday night kickoff. Don't look at Kadarius Toney's drops. Don't look at Kadarius Toney giving interceptions. Don't look at the fact that Chris Jones and Travis Kelce weren't there. Don't look at that. We did it. I'm messing with you, Lion fans. Yes, you should enjoy the win. I will say this, though. Kadarius Toney definitely gave you guys that win, because I think regardless of Travis Kelce out there, if Kadarius Toney didn't essentially hand you guys a pick six, I think you would have lost. But in this game, I'm actually going with the Detroit Lions. I think Seattle's dealing with something. I think they need to figure that out. And I think Detroit with Dan Campbell is doing their thing. And I like Dan Campbell, Dolphin fan. Liked what he did for the Dolphins in his interim head coach position. So I'm picking Detroit. Now they're giving 6.5. They're giving 6. This is going to be a fight. It's also indoors, but it's going to be a fight. But I like Dan Campbell. Do I see them winning by a touchdown? Yeah. You know what? Yeah. Don't regress. Don't make that narrative that the reason you won is because of X, Y, and Z. Because you lose to Seattle, then that asterisk that the announcer said, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, becomes a reality. I'm going with you spread and straight up. Let's go to the next game. The next game is the Colts taking on the Houston Texans. Now, again, the Colts actually put up a decent fight against Jacksonville until the fourth quarter, where they were like, oh, yeah, we're rebuilding, and fell apart, and then Jacksonville won. Houston kind of put up somewhat of a fight until they were like, oh, yeah, we're rebuilding, and completely fell off. These are two teams that are kind of, new quarterback, heading in a young direction, building up. This is going to be an actual, in my opinion, I think this is going to be a pretty decent game. I know the Colts are given 1.5 because they are a little bit more veteran-ish. It's two rookie quarterbacks facing against each other. Who do you like? I wrote down a team, but now that I'm sitting back and really thinking about it, I'm changing my pick. And I'm going with the Houston Texans. Straight up and with the spread. So the Texans are getting 1.5. I'm going both. I'm going with the Texans straight up and with the point. I just like their head coach. I like their running game. And I do like CJ Stroud. So I'm going with the Texans straight up, plus they're home. I'm going to give that little advantage to the Texans because they are home. Then we have the Kansas City Chiefs heading to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Now, the Jaguars did their thing, and they beat the Colts, right? Again, the Colts, however you want to think of the Colts, that's the Colts. Trevor Lawrence looked good. There were some points in the game he didn't, but he looked good, and then you have the Chiefs. Again, I kind of talked about it when I talked about the Lions, but Chris Jones got his contract. He'll be back. Travis Kelce, will he be back? Oh. But we'll know more probably by Saturday. Kadarius Toney, I'm pretty sure that man is on a leash about this long because he cost them the game. Like, you can't look at it and not think that man literally cost them that opening game. So essentially the Chiefs are still giving 3. Now, I do think, Ridley and Trevor Lawrence and ETN and, the way the Jaguars have built, and Doug Peterson, I love Doug Peterson. I actually wanted the Dolphins to look at him when Mike McDaniel was, before he got hired and the Dolphins were looking at a head coach. I wanted Doug Peterson. There's a few guys I wanted. So I like him as a head coach. But Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are a great combination. They could be this generation's, Brady and Belichick. With that being said, I'm going with the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs bounce back here. I think with Chris Jones back, I think he helps them stop whatever it needs to be stopped and get more pressure. And that 3-point spread, I think the winner of this game is going to be by 4 minimum. So I'm going Chiefs both. Straight up and against the spread. Now we got the next team. And I realized in last week's pick video, I named the first team on this list. And I forgot to edit in something. So I'm going to remember to do it this time because we have the Chicago Bears heading to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers with Baker Mayfield. Now, Chicago. You guys were talking a lot of smack to the Green Bay Packers, and then the Green Bay Packers came back and gave you a smack. A lot of people have high hopes for you guys, right? You guys put yourself in a great situation. You drafted well. You had all the money. You go out, get, I was going to say Chase Edmonds, Tremaine Edmonds. You go out and make all these nice additions, and then bounce back here. Now, I'm not a Bears fan. And I'm not saying, hey, I'm rooting for you to bounce back. I'm just saying you need to bounce back here. Because you're facing Tampa. Now, again, there's no poo-poo in Tampa. They beat the Vikings. Baker did his thing. But I think this game is a lot closer than it looks on paper. Now, the Bucs are giving 3. A lot of times that kind of just happens because you're the home team. The home team tends to just be like default give 3. But I think this game is going to be close. I'm going with Tampa still. I think Chicago's still learning how to play Chicago football. So I'm going with Tampa here, and I'm even going with the spread. Again, it's kind of the same situation where I see the winner winning by 4. And if not, it's a push. I don't see it being as close as a point or two to the winner. Then we head to the next game, which is the LA Chargers heading to Tennessee to take on the Titans. Now, the Chargers, Dolphin fan, I got to watch the game. The Chargers on offense ran the ball a lot. Dolphins defense was anemic to stopping the run. We made stops when we needed to. We forced them to punt when we need, like in certain situations. And obviously, Vic Fangio dialed up the blitz at the perfect time. That final drive won the game, shut down Justin Herbert. Again, I showed you statistics showing that when Herbert gets blitzed, he was like last year, he was like 20th or something ranked in passing. He's not good when he got blitzed, so he dialed up the blitz at the perfect time. But on offense, they were good. Now on defense, the Dolphins torched them. J.C. Jackson was not good. We threw it wherever, whenever, however we wanted to. Now you look at Tennessee, though. This is where strength meets weakness, I guess you could say. Tennessee is not a very good passing team, right? Like DeAndre Hopkins had like 45 yards, give or take. Derrick Henry, like a lot of people are questioning if Ryan Tannehill should retire or not. When is Will Levis going to be put in there? There's a lot of things going on. I have the Chargers winning this one straight up. I think the Chargers bounce back here against an inferior team. Yes, I do think the Titans are inferior, even though Mike Vrabel is a good head coach and could find some, tendencies to play off on the Chargers. And last year, the Chargers had a hard time against Tennessee, especially Justin Herbert. But I am going with the Chargers, and they're giving 3, and I will still go with the spread. A lot of these spreads are very close, that it's like makes it easy just to go with the spread and the straight up pick. But you could do like an over. If you don't know how it works, again, bet responsibly. There's an over under as well where you can, over under 40 points. I go under in this one. Yeah. Then we have the Giants. Hold on a second. Giants. I don't mean to pile on. You pay Daniel Jones $40 million and you lost 40-0. Woof is all I can say. I don't know what that was. There's no excuse for rain, nothing like that, because the Cowboys played on the same exact field. Yikes. You're taking on the Cardinals, another team. Again, that Cardinals game was closer than I thought it was going to be, but again, they lost against Washington. But the Giants. Whew. But I will say this. I am taking the Giants to bounce back against the Cardinals. I understand they have to go to the West Coast, and it does take an effect on some teams heading to the West Coast. But I will say this. I am taking the Giants to bounce back here. I do not think they are as bad as they played last Sunday night. That sucked. It was a Sunday night game, but I do not think they're that bad. Giant fans, I don't think you're that bad. I don't think your team's that bad. I think it was week 1. Take it as that. Move on. I don't think it's that bad. I am taking the Giants. You guys are actually giving 4.5 because the Cardinals are worse. I think you guys are going to bounce back in a decisive win, and I think straight up and spread, I'm taking the Giants. I just think they're the better team. Then we have San Francisco Rice-A-Roni taking on the Rams. Again, Rams surprising people, beating Seattle and San Fran. Steelers had no chance against San Fran. And I'll talk about the Steelers. I'm not going to go too far into the Steelers because they're the second Monday night game. But San Francisco showed their dominance. Brock Purdy continued where he left off. Really good. Really liked the way they did. And again, talked about the Rams a little bit with the fact that they were banged up, but still came out and won against the Seahawks. But I'm going with San Fran here. They're giving 8.5, though. It is a division rivalry, and it's a division game, and it's at home with the Rams. So spread-wise, I'm going Rams. Straight up, I'm going 49ers. I do think it'll be at least a touchdown, even if it is like junk yardage, junk time, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, given 8.5, I go spread-wise Rams. I might even take that bet on myself. Next, we have, speaking of a New York team that has bad luck, the Jets heading to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. The Jets. I will say this. I haven't publicly in a video talked about Aaron Rodgers yet. I do not wish injury on anybody. I don't care if you're Tom Brady. I don't care if you're Josh Allen. I don't care if you're the biggest rival or if I hate the quarterback or the team. I never hope for injury. First and foremost, to be the man, you got to beat the man. So I want to face the best competition. Second, it's bad karma, and it's just being a horrible human being. I will say this, though. I feel horrid. That's not a word. It is. But I feel horrible for some of the Jet fans that, we're so excited to see him play, and only 4 plays in, he goes down. But I will also say this, and you guys know for a fact, some of you Jet fans, there are some Jet fans that were relentless, that were unbearable, that were just toxic all off season, and even last year making fun of Tua and his concussions, talking about his brain and it melting out of his ears, and just badgering and being like belittling. I don't wish this on you guys, and I never will. Just know that. And that's all I'm going to say. But it just sucks for you guys that he tore his Achilles and he's out for the year. And it's a situation where he's not young. They talked to Dan Marino about it when he was 32. Same thing happened. It took him a while to come back. Aaron Rodgers is going to be 40. He's going to have to decide if he wants to play anymore or if he wants to rehab and then try to play maybe 41, maybe sometime half of the year. Because, again, we have a guy at 26, Nick Needham, who tore his Achilles. He still isn't playing, so it's a big process. Taking on the Cowboys. But again, I will say this. You guys beat the Bills. You guys' defense is still really good. You just have to limit what Zach Wilson does because I do still think he's a liability for you guys. Facing the Cowboys, who, again, 40-0 completely dominated the Giants. But are the Cowboys that good or the Giants that bad? We don't know, and I think this is a good measuring stick for what are the Cowboys, because I think the Jets' defense can really show what the Cowboys are. I am taking the Cowboys in this one. I think the Cowboys defense is really good, and I think that there's only so much you can cover up with Zach Wilson. Now, the Buffalo Bills handed them that game by Josh Allen throwing 3 interceptions to the same man. I think if that didn't happen, the Bills win. But I think for some reason he thought I can just do whatever, even though Zach Wilson was struggling really bad and they could have went up by multiple touchdowns and ended the game. So I think the Cowboys are not going to take the Jets so lightly. And I think that there's only so much you can hide Zach Wilson, because while I was watching the game yesterday, they were just handing the ball off like crazy and then throwing screens and out routes and quick passes and not letting Zach Wilson make his decisions on his own. And I think the Cowboys are going to be a problem. So I'm taking the Cowboys, but 8.5 is a lot. So spread-wise, I'm also going to take the Jets. Fun fact, Monday, I took the Jets in the spread because I thought 3.5 was close, and I thought it was going to be a close game. I won that one. So, Jeff fans, I picked you last week, so I don't want to hear it. Then we have the Commanders heading to Denver to take on the Broncos. Broncos barely lost to the Raiders, and the Commanders beat the Cardinals. This is a team, again, Cardinals, Commanders. What team are you? You beat the Cardinals. Denver, can they bounce back here? I'm picking Denver. They're home, given 3.5. You know what? I'm picking Broncos straight up, but I'm picking the Commanders with the spread being that it's 3.5. So even if the Broncos win by a field goal, the Commanders take this. So I think it will be a field goal game. So straight up, Broncos spread. Commanders. Next we have the Dolphins heading to New England to take on the Patriots Sunday night. I said this last time and somebody was like, what a waste of my time. Why wouldn't you just give us your picks? Because then what's the point of watching the video on Friday? But you gotta watch the video on Friday and know my picks. I'm not gonna sit here and talk about it in depthness of what I think of this game when I'm just gonna do it on Friday in a full 20-minute video. But comment below, who do you think? I will say this though, the Dolphins are giving 2.5. So that must mean something with the way people feel about the Dolphins, which so far so good. And then we have 2 Monday night games. We got the Saints heading to Carolina to take on the Panthers. The Saints with Derek Carr did pretty well. And again, the Panthers young and up and coming. The Saints are giving 3.5. I'm taking the Saints both in this straight up and the spread. I understand it's a division rival, but I just think the Panthers are too young. And I think they have a lot of growing to do. And then finally, the second Monday night game, the Cleveland Trolls, Elves, whatever they are, taking on the Steelers. And again, now the Browns are dealing with injuries on their own, right? Conklin's out. I think he tore his ACL and his MCL. He's out. They're dealing with some injuries on their own. But the Steelers, Kenny Pickett, preseason, the hype for Kenny Pickett and the things he did in preseason, and everyone came out and was high and mighty on Kenny Pickett and the Steelers because of preseason, and then just crap the bed. And that's why I constantly say week 1 and the preseason can't put too much stock into it. A lot of people are freaking out about week 1 with the Dolphins and their defense, same as the preseason. But as the season goes on, the defense is going to get better and better. Trust me, same thing with the Steelers. Week 1 and the preseason, Kenny Pickett. First, Kenny Pickett was the best thing since Drew Bledsoe. Best thing since Ben Roethlisberger. I think they were even calling him like a rendition of that name. And then he came falling down to earth. Now, the Steelers are getting 2.5. I'm taking the Steelers straight up, and I'm taking the Steelers with the spread. I think the Steelers are mad. I think Mike Tomlin is mad. I think they're home, and I think they are going to really shut that down. I think they're like, nope, we're not letting that stand. Cleveland, we're sorry, but you're about to get beat. I think they win by at least 7. So I'm taking the Steelers straight up, and I'm taking them against the spread. But comment below. Let me know what you guys think. If I picked 4 against your team, comment below. Let me know. I will see you guys. I think tomorrow I'm going to do something with Big O. And you'll see that tomorrow. And then Friday, we preview the game. And then Sunday night, you're going to see just me. Because, again, my dad, it's Sunday night. He's got work. But you'll see me Sunday night around 8 o'clock. Dolphins heading to New England to take on the Patriots. Well, like usual, stay classy. My friends out.